Hello students and welcome to the lecture. So students, as we know that we are covering the scheduled and the tribal areas, right? This is the topic on which we have been discussing, all right? And basically within this topic, or you can say within this series of the schedule and the tribal areas, all of these are the topics we have scheduled for the discussion, like the introduction part, like the scheduled areas in India and overview of it, like the criteria for the identification of the scheduled areas, like the constitutional provisions and the governance, like the concerns that are related to the scheduled areas, administration of the scheduled areas, scheduled tribes, then the general concerns of the tribal community, addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous community, problems that are being faced by the tribal groups, the conclusion, and the administration of the tribal areas. Okay, so these are the topics we had scheduled for the discussion. If we talk about the topics we have covered so far, so basically we have done with the introduction part, we have done with the scheduled areas in India and overview of it, we have done with the criteria for identification of scheduled area, we have done with the constitutional provisions and the governance, we have done with the concerns that are related to the scheduled area, we are done with the administration of scheduled areas, even we have done with the scheduled tribes. So these are the topics we have discussed. If we talk about the topic on which we have been discussing right now, so this is the general concerns of the tribal community. Okay, this is the topic on which we have been discussing. If we talk about the topic, we are left with these are the addressing the challenges, significance of the indigenous communities. Okay, problems are being faced by the tribal groups, conclusion, and the administration of the tribal areas. Okay, so this is the picture we have created so far altogether. Basically, in this lecture, we will start from where we had left in the previous one. Okay, so basically in the previous lecture, we had discussed the migration factor. Okay, and basically we have done the economic migration, that is what we have completed. Even we have seen the urbanization. All right, now if we move forward, so if we talk about the general concerns of the tribal community, if we move forward, then what we will see? We will see the cultural changes. Okay, the cultural changes, this is the another concerns that is related with the scheduled and the tribal areas. First thing of this is the assimilation. Okay, first thing is the assimilation. So if we talk about it, what do you mean by the assimilation? First thing is that basically assimilation stand out for the getting mixed or getting merged with something or assimilate with something. Okay, this is what we call as an assimilation. All right, like you can say there is a two things, A and B, and then A basically get into B completely or merge with B, then that will be called an assimilation process. Okay, so if we talk about the assimilation in the respect of the schedule and the tribal areas, in respect of this, if we talk about it, then basically we can say an indigenous individuals or the Adivasis, when they integrate into the broader society. Now here you will see the word broader society has been used. What is the significance of this? And what we are getting from it, that is what we are required to understand. We can say basically, suppose there are the two sides. Since the starting we have been discussing on these two sides. First side is the mainstream. Mainstream means the normal human being, the general community and all. Second side is the scheduled or the tribal ones. Those who were living with the primitive, those who were originally inhabited the area, and those who were underprivileged since the starting. All right. So if we look at them carefully, what we will see, the general community, the mainstream society, basically this is heterogeneous. Even when we were discussing about the national integration, so I had explained this thing to you in a detailed form. Like the society in which we are living in, this is the heterogeneous society. Everyone is different from everyone in terms of religion, in terms of caste, in terms of ethnicity, in terms of race. Okay, but still we are united because of the one thing, that is our country, right? That was the thing. So here the society is heterogeneous. That's why it is a broader society, because it containing many segments that lives in India. But if we talk about the indigenous individuals or the tribal peoples, generally they belong to the tribe. Generally they belong to the tribe. And if we refer the tribe to the society for our understanding, if we refer the tribe to the society, what we will found, that basically they are living isolated, or that with the homogeneous. For example, suppose if there are three tribes, X, Y, Z, X tribe, Y tribe, Z tribe. So the X tribe will living differently or living away from Y or Z. Okay, it means that the X settlement is the homogeneous settlement of X tribe. Similarly, Y settlement will be a Y homogeneous group of the people. So that is the thing. Got it? They all are different from each other, but they are living isolatedly. The one tribe is living another side, and the another tribe living is another side. So that's why they are the smaller and the narrow society. But the mainstream society in which we are living in, that is not only limited to the one tribe, that is you can say involving many other segments also. So that's why we are living in the border society. Okay, so when this unique identity people tries to get integrate with the broader society, where everything is heterogeneous but also everything is same, all right, then the first thing that comes in front of them is the fear or risk of losing their identity. Why? Because their cultural identity is based on the place they belong to. Okay, they live on that place on the basis of this thing, all right. But when they come to the society, come to the mainstream, okay, where the normal people are living, general people are living, then what happens, the general people is neither having that environment nor they are tending to do it. Again I'm repeating, neither having that environment nor they are tending to do it. So generally these people face the risk of the losing of their cultural identity, which they could have maintained if they would have remained in the place they are living in. Okay, and that could be not cultural identity but the languages also. Why? Suppose if some tribal people is there, for example someone is there who speaks Methi, who speak Methi language, then in terms of livelihood, in terms of growth opportunity, in any other terms, the person has migrated from the native place to some metropolitan city. For example, suppose he came to the New Delhi, the capital, all right. So basically when he will come to the capital, what do you think, which language we speak in Delhi? We speak Hindi. Okay, so the language of Delhi is Hindi. The language of the person was Methi. So if he come here and if he start speaking Methi, what do you think? Will he be eligible to communicate with the people, or will the people will be comfortable to communicate with him? Clear no. Why? Because he is speaking something that is not getting into the heads of the people. Similarly, when the people will start saying something to him, he won't be able to understand. Why? Because the language of the people will be Hindi. That is not understandable by him. Okay. So in order to survive that environment, in order to survive that place, basically what he has to do, he has to give up his original language, means the native language, and he is required to start speaking in the language of masses or the language of people. Then only he will be able to survive and communicate. Got it? Second is the traditional knowledge. Second is the traditional knowledge. Like when we talk about the tribals, okay, so basically the place they are living in, they have to adopt it as per the place. Okay, like suppose if they are living in the remote areas, deep jungles, high mountains, island groups, and all. So basically, for their survival, since the starting, they have been adopting various things, and that all the things getting combined forms the traditional language or traditional knowledge, right? But when they move to the broader societies or the urban areas, okay, so basically we are not so much dependent on the nature as these peoples are dependent. Okay, like suppose if you want to eat the fish, all right, then you can simply go to the market, you can purchase it. If the person who is living in the remote and the tribal area, he wants to eat the fish, then he requires to go and hunt down the fish. Whose work and whose knowledge is there? In the first example, there is no need of knowledge. If you want to have some fish, you are not required to go and learning how to do the fishing and how to make the fish and all. You can simply go and buy it. But the person who is living in the remote area, because he is not having that facility with him, so he is required to go outside by himself and then hunt down the fish, get it to the place, do all the things and the procedure. I'm not aware about it. Okay. And then eat the fish. All right. So basically, when the indigenous people moves to the urban areas, because of the comfortable environment that we have in the cities, that also affected them. Why? Because if the person who was living in the remote area, now he is living in the urban area, now he wants a fish, so he will not search for the water bodies to hunt down the fish. No. Why? Because now he will get the auction. He could move to the supermarket, he could move to the shop, simply purchase it. All right, that is the thing. It means that traditional knowledge that they have been acquired from a long times, or you can say the knowledge that has been passing to them from their ancestors, these knowledge will be lost. Why? Because in the cities these knowledge will have no work to do. Okay, and even the assimilation pressure can erode the cultural practices and value. For example, let me tell you one thing. For example, just suppose if we look at the tribals, many tribes having some tattoos on the bodies, and they even wear some kind of mukata and all, you can say. Okay, so when they are living in the native place they belong to, then they will do this kind of practices and they respect the values they have from this place. Like various tattoo means various things. If someone is having that tattoo, it means that someone is belong to that thing. Okay, but when they leave their native place, when they leave their native place and when they move to the urban areas, okay, what thing they will have there? First, they will avoid to follow this culture. That is quite common. Why? Because they want to assimilate, because they want to integrate, because they want to be seen as the other peoples are being seen. All right, so you can suppose, like if you're living in the metropolitan cities and if you're having the metros in your cities, like if you're from the Delhi NCR, you will be most aware about it. Even if you're from Mumbai, Bangalore and all, okay, then you have the metros in your cities. All right, now assume yourself you are going in the metro. Okay, you have seen someone, some tribal was there, he is wearing his traditional dress, having some bhala and all in his hand like he used to do at a place, and having body tattoos and all. What do you think? Will he be different or will be the same like you? What do you think? Obviously different. Why? Because you do not have it that much of things. You're not wearing that dress, you're not having that weapon in your hand, you're not having that kind of tattoos on your face. Okay, so that is the main thing. Like the tribals, when they move to the urban areas, move to the cities, basically they want to look as you are looking to them. Similarly, same to same. Okay, carbon copy you can say at sometimes, but that's not naturally. All right, that is the thing. Okay, it means that when they move to the city, when the people are not following the cultural and practices like they were doing at their places, so usually they also do this kind of thing. And again, should I remind you or you should remind it by yourself? Okay, let me remind you. This is again against our aim behind conserving the schedules and the tribals. Why? Because many times we have learned it, many times we have talked about it. We want to assimilate them in the mainstream, but not by eroding their culture and their practices. We want them to come to share the contribution to this country, but while preserving their uniqueness and culture. That should not be lost, because if they will lose their heritage, because if they will lose their cultural practices, the values, the traditional knowledge, the language they have, the cultural identity, in the uniqueness they have, then there is no mean to indulging them in the mainstream. Okay? Okay? The next that we have here is the intergenerational discontent. It means that the generational gap in short. The generational gap in short. Like you can say, when we talk about the cultural assimilation and all, that is generally developed from the one thing that is the migration, right? And who do the migrations mostly? The younger population. All right. So when the younger population migrated and tried to be assimilated in the urban areas, okay, so they could create a disconnect with the older generations, and that could lead us to the loss of their cultural identity or cultural continuity. However, we can say that this particular issue is not only with the tribals, also with the mainstream. Okay, like if you remember, if you see at your parents, you will find they are moreover culturally motivated, they are moreover having the traditional knowledge, they are moreover connected to their native language as you people are. All right, that is the main thing. Okay, why? Because they have been living there. But you right now living in the cities, in the heterogeneous and the mixed up societies, that's why this has also impacted your mentality. You're not that much of connected. Okay. Similar kind of things also applicable to the tribal areas. Okay. The younger generations, when they go out from their native places, their place they are residing in. So generally, when they try to integrate it with their modern society and getting it adapted into the modern society, they oftenly creates a disconnect with the older generation that could lead to a loss of cultural identity. Okay, lead to a loss of cultural identity. That is the main thing. If we move forward, another general concerns of the tribal community. If we talk about, so basically this is the poverty. What do you mean by the poverty? That is the one thing. Okay, what do you mean by the poverty? To answer this question, you will have 30 seconds. Time starts now. The question is very much simple. Like, what do you mean by the poverty? What is the meaning of poverty? Okay. 10 seconds have been passed off. Last 20s are remaining. Last 10 seconds are there. The time is going to be up. Time's up. So basically, the poverty stands out for the condition when the person is having the less survival resources than a SAT standard. Again, I'm repeating. Poverty is the condition when the person is having the less survival resources than the SAT standards. Okay. So, if we talk about the poverty in the terms of the scheduled and the tribals, in terms of the scheduled and tribals, if we talk about it, okay. So, the first thing you can say in the terms of poverty is the economic marginalization. And that is quite obvious thing also we can say. Economic marginalization. So here you will see the two words. If we bifurcate them, two words are there. Okay. Like the economic and the marginalization. So here, if we look at this word marginalization, what do you mean by this? So let me first give you a formal definition, then I will explain it later. Marginalization is a state when individual or group of individuals, when individual or group of individuals are dedicatedly, or you can say are intentionally, basically putting back from the resources, or you can say marginalization is a condition when an individual or group of individuals are intentionally not being allowed to have the access to the resources. Okay, this is the definition. Now just take a real life example. Suppose, just take an example. You are in your classroom. Okay, you are in a classroom. In classroom, basically, there is the provision of two coolers, air coolers. You might be aware about it. Like if the class is having 40 students, so there would be a two coolers. Okay, one is for one side, second is for another side. Okay, that will be an equitable distribution. Then what happened, because of some conditions, because of the circumstances, both the coolers are being deployed at one place only. Okay, then what will happen? The another side people will not have access to those air coolers. Why? Because the resources have been deployed particularly for the one side while neglecting the another side. Okay, so the side that has been neglected, that would be a marginal side. If you try to connect it with the definition, you will find it true. What was the definition? When an individual or group an individual intentionally being debarred or being displaced from having the access to the resources. Right? That was a thing. And here, if you try to connect it, so basically the group of individuals, the students who are sitting on that side, these are intentionally not allowing to get the access of the air coolers or the resources. Okay. Now the marginalization explained to you. Thereafter, the another word is the economic. Okay. Economic signifies the economical resources. So basically here we are going to talk about like how does the tribals and the scheduled peoples who are intentionally have been debarred from having the access to the natural resources in the terms of economics. Okay, and that makes the base for the economic marginalization. Right? That's the thing. So here, if we talk about it, the first reason that we have for this is the limited economic opportunities. Limited economic opportunities, that is the first thing. Indigenous communities often live in the remote areas that are often backward. These areas generally do not having the access to the normal markets where the economic activities carries out, okay, and other kind of economic opportunities also not applicable to them, okay, and they basically remains in isolation, remains in a cutoff from the mainstream, okay, because in the mainstream there will be the access of the market, there will be a different kind of livelihoods and all, and these things are not applicable in the area where the tribals are living in, and that area is the scheduled area. Scheduled area is oftenly a backward area as per the article 244. The definition we have seen already. All right. So that is the main thing. So this restricts their ability to participate in the broader economy or the mainstream economy. Why? Because they are not having the access. Second is the informal economy. Many tribal people who work in the informal sectors with unstable, low paying jobs. Like there are two types of sectors in the economy, formal and the informal, that I will explain in the next lecture. Till then, just remember that basically most tribals are living in the informal sector where the jobs are often unstable, okay, and even they are having the low paying jobs. And this precarious employment situation perpetuates a property. It means that however the person is working, however the person is earning, but these two things, instability and low paying, basically that restricts the growth of the person in terms of economics even after having the access to the employment. Got it? After this, the lack of land ownership, the lack of land ownership or secure loan tenure. Okay, like you can say when we talk about the tribals are living in the forest and forest is not belonging to anyone. Okay, generally the forest land is belong to the government of India, that restricts their land ownership. Okay, secondly, the land on which they are living in, this land could be encroached by any mining company, whether it's a private or whether it's a government, under the different provisions of the Indian Constitution. Okay, so this thing prevents the tribes from engaging any productive agriculture, all right, or securing loans for the development. That thing also I will explain you in the next lecture. All right. So students, basically in this lecture we have finished till here. In the next lecture we would continue from here. Till then, just revise the facts and figures that all we have discussed in this lecture. Be ready for the next lecture. With this note, let's end this lecture, and what we say thank you.